We're going to start off with, we were waiting for Leader Pelosi, but we're going to move forward with Richard Trumka. Richard Trumka is president of the American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations, an outspoken advocate for social and economic justice. Mr. Trumka is the nation's clearest voice on the critical need to raise workers' wages in the slow and painful economic recovery. He heads the labor movement's efforts to create an economy based on broadly shared prosperity and to hold government and employers accountable to working families. Mr. Trumka, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A generation of trickle-down economics and wage stagnation has left America in a place where 20 people control more wealth than half the population. And despite President Obama's valiant efforts to address runaway inequality, this is the reality our candidates face in 2016. The Democratic platform must offer a comprehensive, integrated vision of how we can rewrite the rules of the economy to raise wages for all working people and make government a partner in our hopes for better lives for ourselves and our children. The key to addressing wage stagnation and the inequality it creates is rebuilding workers' bargaining power, and that begins with full employment. We must end the job-killing policies of austerity and sequester. There should be a good job in America for everyone who wants one. And to get that, we need to modernize our labor laws and give them teeth so working people, whether they're employed at Walmart or Nissan or Uber, or in the public sector in Wisconsin or the private sector in Mississippi, have the right to organize and bargain without fear of retaliation. Without that essential freedom, all talk of addressing inequality or wage stagnation will be meaningless. If we want wages to rise, productivity must rise too, and that means making America more competitive by investing in the nation's infrastructure. Our physical infrastructure is rated a D+ by the American Society of Civil Engineers. We need a 10-year program to get our current infrastructure back to world-class status and to invest in the infrastructure of the future: universal broadband, high-speed rail, and a smart electrical grid. This is a multi-trillion-dollar commitment. We must also invest in skills and education, from kindergarten through vocational training and college, because we want every person in America to realize his or her full potential. Our trade policies must serve the interests of American workers and consumers, not global corporations. The Democratic Party must oppose the Trans-Pacific Partnership because it gives new rights to foreign corporations, fails to address currency manipulation, protects high drug prices, and would perpetuate a failed corporate model of trade that has bled jobs and repressed wages for decades. Our financial system and our tax code must support Main Street jobs, small businesses, and not serve speculation on Wall Street. We must end tax breaks for hedge fund billionaires and companies that offshore jobs. We must break up too big to fail banks and separate government-insured commercial banking from the risk-taking of Wall Street. And just as we have a sales tax on things working people buy, we should have a Wall Street sales tax on trades. The Democratic Party must also oppose any cuts to Social Security or Medicare. In fact, it's time to strengthen and expand Social Security and to open Medicare up to those under 65 to make the public option real. We must stop the assault on good employer-provided benefits by repealing the healthcare excise tax and strengthening the private pension system. Finally, our economy will not work for all of us if millions of American workers are forced to live in the shadows. We must support comprehensive immigration reform with a pathway to citizenship, restore voting rights to formerly incarcerated, and end the cycle of biased mandatory sentencing and post-prison discrimination that falls most heavily on communities of color. The Democratic Party's vision of America is that we are stronger together, that we look after each other, and we invest in the future. This means that the people who do the work and create the wealth of the country should share in the affluence that they help create. See, we envision a future of rising incomes, of shared prosperity, and of growing opportunity. And the Democratic platform should make a clear statement of the party's bold determination to make that vision a reality. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to do 5 minutes of questions, ladies and gentlemen. Again, at the end of the 5 minutes, I'm cutting it off, all right? We're going to hear from Mr. Booth.
Brother Trumka, so here's a list of things that you just cited that are now part of the Democratic Party mainstream. Austerity is bad economics. We need a big investment program. We shouldn't have any banks that are too big to fail. We should promote worker bargaining power, promote collective bargaining, no trade deals that cut jobs, that change, that don't deal with currency manipulation, real tax reform, all those things. And I have the last 4 platforms, and half of that was not in these previous platforms. Something has changed. Don't take all the credit for it, but the labor movement should get some of the credit for it. Do you think this is sufficient for a platform that espouses that and candidates that campaign for that? Is that sufficient to reach, to get credibility with American working people in order to go out and win an election? Because we're writing a platform here. We have to make some commitments that people trust.
I think, Paul, it'll take 2 things. I think, one, you have to understand the plight of the American worker, not just talk about things that will help, but understand and recognize their frustration and their anger because they played by all the rules for 10 years. If then you plug in all the platform items that I talked about, and they are convinced, and this is the key, they are convinced that we will follow through and make that platform a reality, I think you energize workers and you get them to the polls, you get them excited, and they will rally around us rewriting the rules of the economy to their benefit so that the economy really does start to work for everyone and not just those at the very top.
Dr. West.
Yes, thank you so very much for being here. I mean, as you know, there is a tension between the so-called populists in the Democratic Party and so-called neoliberals in the Democratic Party over the issue of the TPP. Now, I'm convinced that it's very important that we, in our platform, make a statement about TPP in such a way that we lean toward the populists. Agreeing with you, what kind of argument would you make to our colleagues and fellow members of the party as to why this is so very important?
I would make 2 arguments. One, on the merits, what we've been doing with trade hasn't worked. It simply hasn't worked. It's disadvantaged American workers. It's sent jobs overseas. And so the whole regime or the model must change. But the second thing I would say is, unless you make a strong statement, the American public is going to be, one, either confused by the opposite side, who is very sharp and clear on trade, and 2, they will not be duped into pablum. If we simply muddle through the issue, you'll lose votes in Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan, and a number of other states along the way, Virginia, South Carolina, North Carolina, every state in the country where they have seen a failed trade regime work to their disadvantage and to the advantage of multinationals. I think we have to be crystal clear and sharp on the issue, elsewise we lose the Republican candidate coming from the left on that issue where we cannot allow him to be. He doesn't deserve to be there. He doesn't believe in what he's saying to be there, and we can't allow that to have the perception that he's there.
Ms. Tandem.
Thank you so much for your remarks. I greatly appreciate the whole framework as well as the focus on investment. I think I wanted to ask about investments beyond infrastructure. I totally appreciate a need for a dramatic increase in infrastructure investment. As you know, heretofore, that has really, those jobs have gone more to men than women, although that's changing. What is your position on a substantial investment in childcare, in education, other arenas in which those jobs are also perhaps more broadly shared?
Well, thank you, Nara. First of all, I also said that we want to have every person, him or her, be able to reach their opportunity, and every opportunity that's out there, reach their full potential. You can't do that without quality health care, without quality education at the lower level in the kindergarten area and all through grade school, and then in vocational training as well as college training, because everybody doesn't have to go to college to meet their potential. So we think there should be substantial investment in that so that we are opening up the opportunities and creating opportunities for every person, man, woman, black, red, yellow, white, brown, it doesn't matter, so that we give them all an opportunity. We can't do that unless we have quality pre-care, quality pre-kindergarten education, child care, and everything along those lines. And I think that's an important statement for the Democratic Party to make. It's a major difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, who does everything to see that a child is born, and then they believe that life ends at birth. They do everything after birth to make sure that that child doesn't have an opportunity.
Thank
Trumka,
you so much.
thank you very much. Thank you.